giving it all to go your way. We're giving it all away, away. We're giving it all to go your way. We are sold out to your calling, everything that we are for your glory. Set free to show the truth. Our lives will never be the same. We're giving it all away, away. We're giving it all to go away. We're giving it all away, away. We're giving it all to go away, away. We're singing. Ole, 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 ole. Ole, ole, ole. Ole, 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 ole. Ole, ole. We're giving it all away, away. We're giving it all to go away. We're giving it all away, away. We're giving it all to go away, away. We're singing. If I can have the entire crowd just come up for a second. Yeah, that's perfect. That's beautiful. If I can just get really sentimental with you for a second. We had around, 3 or 4 hype songs. Now we're about at we're gonna slow the tone down to something that really puts your heart in this vulnerable position. And I want this to really touch every single person's heart. You see, when we sing these next songs, it's not just all about hype. It's about giving God our all. And so when we sing these next songs, I want it to come from a place of surrender, a place of humility, a place where, man, God, I'm giving it all to you. And no matter how hype I am, I can get hype with my friends on a party every day. But this is the real moment. Don't care who's the person next to you, what they're thinking. This is you and God. So as we transition to this next song, I want everyone here to just get real with yourselves, with God. Don't be fake with God. God knows your heart. I'm so out of breath. Are you ready? You guys are ready? Yeah. I'm not Steve. Are we ready?
me now. Your grace holds 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 me now.
Spirit of Jesus, living within us, never to fail or forsake, unending promise, heaven inside us, whispers a sound of your name. Holy, holy is the Lord, worthy to be praised. Yahweh. Filled with your wonder, here I surrender, held in your mystery of grace, calling me closer, waking desire, coming alive in your name.
What is up, Lifted Youth? Hey, guys, do me a quick favor. How about you guys grab some chairs, come on up front. If not, you guys can sit on the floor. I don't, just know that there's a lot of people who are, barefoot and a lot of food. All right, guys. Today, I just want to say something. We're going to do something a little bit different today. Just about every Friday, if you guys don't know who I am, by the way, my name is Nick. I'm the youth director and creative director here at Lifted Church and Lifted Youth. I have the amazing blessing to bring so many different messages based off of so many different topics, based off of so much different scripture. And I thoroughly enjoy it, but today I felt like I needed to change it up. I need to change it up because, we're doing a summer bash, and we want to have fun, but with fun comes stories, right? Every time I've ever gone somewhere fun, I always feel like I come back with a story in mind. For example, I know for a fact after today, I know I will be talking about how I was given a BTS shirt from somebody that I don't know in a size small. I mean, it was great. It's not true. I'm trying to steal it from her because I don't even know one song from BTS. But besides that, I'm a big proponent of stories. So as you guys come on, sit down, we're gonna do something different today. Today, instead of me preaching at you, instead of me telling you what everything should be, one's gonna always be standing. There's only need to be 3 chairs. I'm gonna go ahead and do something different. I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys some testimonies. Some testimonies from people who have been at this youth, who have experienced what God has to offer them, but this is their stories. That being said, guys, give a great round of applause for my boy George, who I defeated.
How are we doing? We're doing great. We're doing great. I'm not Steve. Stop it. Shut up. During this past week, I really noticed that I was in this stage of transition in my life, this season of transition. I'm doing a lot of different things that I used to, and this past year has been completely transformational for me. A few months ago, I didn't even know what I wanted to be or what I wanted to do. What? What? And so, I've come to the point where these past couple of months, or more like this past week especially, that I felt myself drifting away from God, in the sense that I didn't see His way working out for me because it wasn't fast enough. And so I decided to do things my own way. And of course, when I just got burned in the end, because I realized at the end of the day, no matter how hard or how different I try to do things in my own way, it's never going to work out. You see, and it's strange because I kind of have everything that I've ever wanted, everything that I've been praying for. I got a good family, except for my brother. I got a car, I got a girlfriend, I got to FIU free of charge, I got a job, I can pay for my stuff, I have it all. But stop. But the strange thing is that despite everything, I still feel kind of lost. I still feel like none of these things fulfill me. And so these past couple of days and weeks, I've been kind of struggling in the sense that, if I have it all, why don't I feel like I have it all? And then I realized, I have everything I had prayed for, but the moment that I had gotten everything I had prayed for, I forgot who to thank. I forgot who to glorify. And when I had done so, things started to go wrong. I started balancing things the wrong way. I started focusing on one thing more than the other. I started prioritizing my girlfriend over God, the car over God, going out. And it hit me hard. I remember I would, these past couple of days, I would lay up talking to God, asking God why. Like I tried it your way and it didn't seem fast enough. So when I tried to do things my way, it still didn't work out. What do I do? And then I got an answer. And it was just to stay patient. And in the end, it worked out, didn't it? Are we having fun today? Are we having fun today? The moment I walked into these doors, I felt happy. I felt at peace. I had prayed for something different. And it wasn't so that I can be happy or to take away the loneliness. It was like, Lord, I'm pushing away everything that I had put over you. And I'm going to try and just get closer to you. Like pushing everything away. And then the moment that I did, that's when I really felt like the Spirit of God in my life. At peace, balanced out. And a lot of this has to do with the change that I made a few years ago at camp. Oh my God, camp. But and as much as I want to talk about camp, are you guys going to talk about camp or no? Yeah, you are? Okay, I'll just leave it for their story. But I do want to know that it starts there. At least it did for me. I know a few years ago at that camp, I bet none of my friends knew that I would be up on here because I was a fool. I sucked. Like I love just playing around. But I just know that it starts there. It starts coming before God with a vulnerable heart. It starts humbling yourself, putting your heart in a place of surrender, like I had said before. It starts there. Because you can't go to God with a prideful heart. You're not going to gain anything from it. And so that's what I realized my mistake was. And I just pray that it's not yours. I pray that whoever goes to camp here, can I get a show of hands? Who's going to camp? Yeah. Amazing! Amazing! I pray that every single one of you goes to camp with the expectation of gaining something, learning something, receiving someone, Jesus. But thank you. That's my testimony to you. I hope that you guys take something away from it. If not, to learn, or it's the same thing, I guess. But that's my testimony. Thank you. I want to introduce my midget friend, Liz.
I'm sorry. I know I'm 5 feet, but like whatever. Like, ouch, George. Hi guys, I'm Liz. I don't know if you guys know, but like, hi guys, say hi back, okay? Hi guys. So if you guys know, like I'm part of worship. And a few months ago, I didn't even want to be up there. Like, I didn't even know. Like, when I first came here, I was like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. And I kind of just, like, avoided it, like, my whole life. Like, I was like, no, like, and, yeah, so now I'm here. But I kind of want to give you guys a little, like, backstory of, like, my testimony. So I basically grew up, like, in a Christian household. I went to like Bible school, you know, kind of like VBS-ish, like whatever. But then, like kind of like 10-ish, a family member got diagnosed with cancer. And it was kind of hard. Sorry. Okay, it's my first time doing this, okay. Okay, so a family member got diagnosed with cancer. And it was like hard for my family, obviously, because you know it's a very tough disease. Like you can just die whenever, and so she's still alive, by the way. Okay, yeah. But so guys, wait for me, okay? Let me tell you the story, okay? Yeah, please give me the. Okay, so thank you. So as like the years go along, she was doing therapy, like chemo, and she got diagnosed with lung cancer. It's pretty hard. But then when I was growing up, like getting older, obviously it was kind of tough. And when I got into middle school, I wasn't really in the best group of friends either. So that didn't really help the situation out. So like I felt alone, and yeah, that kind of happened. But I got like super sad. Like I wouldn't really feel anything. I was like, oh, like why would God exist if he would give my family member cancer? Like why would someone do that? Like they would literally die like the second like I just turn around. And so I was really doubting God at that time. Like I was like, why would you do that to my family member that I care about and love? And I realized that the fact that she's still breathing and alive, that I should just take advantage of that, and that she does know the Lord. And my dad and I, we tried telling her about the Bible and stuff like that. And just, I want to tell you guys today that just cherish every moment that you have with that person, obviously. And that the fact that you guys are all here just worshiping God, because there's a lot of places that church isn't allowed either. And so I just want to tell you guys that every day and every breath that you breathe is a miracle. And the fact that I am so grateful that the family member that is still alive today still is breathing, and she's a miracle, and she's one of the reasons why I'm like still here. And God, I appreciate him so much, that the fact that he was there along with me the whole time. And I came to the realization that the fact that she's still stable is why he's real. And there's a lot of cruelty in this world, but we just still have to, as Christians, we still have to go on and just spread kindness to one another no matter what. And just believe, honestly. And yeah, I don't know. that's part of my testimony. Sorry, guys. Yes, obviously. Guys, this is the person that I wrestled, that I defeated. Catherine. Me.
Hey guys. Hi. Okay, so many of you may know me as the person who sings, right? Because I've been here for a long time. But I've seen people come and go, and I've been here for a very, very long time. So I just want to kind of give a backstory of how I ended up here and how God has worked in my life so far up to this point. So I know like life is definitely like not easy, and you go through a lot of rough patches, and there's highs and lows, but it's in the moments that are the most lows that I feel that God reveals himself to be the strongest. So one of the earliest memories that I have, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate, I lived in a single parent home, but one of my first memories is like my mom and dad fighting, right? And it wasn't always easy, but as a kid I didn't understand why they had to be fighting. And then I still vividly remember like the day that like my dad went through the door and then like never came back kind of thing. So he but in those moments I remember like I developed kind of like, I would say, a sense of insecurity, because I would be growing up in elementary school, and I remember there were like a lot of events that parents showed up, like whether it be like award ceremonies or like field days. And people would show up and be like, oh, okay, Catherine, like, this is my dad. Say hi to my dad. And then I'd be like, oh, hi. Then I'd be like, wait a minute, something's missing here. Why is my mom only here? Like, I don't really understand. And then as I grew older, I learned to, like, understand that, like, just because I didn't have that figure in my life doesn't mean that I'm completely alone. I got lucky because I have a family that supports me. And it basically all started with my mother. So obviously she had a very hard time because my father cheated on my mother. So it was very hard, and I remember there were days where she would try her hardest to show that she was strong, but even as a kid you notice sometimes things aren't completely like butterflies and rainbows. And I remember one day I went up to her and I didn't understand really why she was crying, but I remember like a little voice kind of telling me like to just tell her that it'll be all right. So she was crying, and I went up to her and I was like, Mom, I don't cry, like everything's gonna be all right. And it so happened that that same day, someone had invited her to a church across the street. And like with my words and I guess her friend's invitation, her friend had been inviting her for a very long time, but she just kind of said, okay, I'll give this whole church thing a try. So we went to this church. I can't really remember what church it was, but we showed up at this little church, and I have like vague memories of it, but we somehow ended up here. And I remember growing up in Sunday school with people like Mr. Green, and I remember like, I was like, hey, I may not have that father figure, but there's a lot of people in this church that are like good role models and fathers that I could look up to. And I started kind of integrating myself into this church, and I was like, hey, if this is what family's like, if this is what God's love is like, then can I get some more? You know what I'm saying? So as I started getting older, it was like about camp age. So I was like, I think I was in 5th grade, so I wasn't quite old enough to go to camp, but my older brother he had been going to camp, so they kind of made an exception for me. So I went, and I remember for the longest time I would tell myself, like, oh, I'm a Christian, I go to church, I go to Sunday school, like, I don't rob, I don't do anything bad, so I'm a good person, and I like go to church and all this stuff. But it wasn't until I went to camp that I like kind of realized that being a Christian isn't just trying to reassure yourself that like there's this being in the sky who takes care of you. It's more of a relationship. So I remember like one of the analogies that was given is like Thomas, I remember he was doing like a workshop. He was saying that like you can know God like you know Michael Jordan, but do you know God like you know your father? And I remember I was like, well, it's kind of rough because I don't even know my father. That's a little, like, it's a little tough, you know what I'm saying? But I wanted to have a sense of what a father was like because I knew that God, like the way that the Bible described him, he was like an unstoppable God, and he was merciful and loving, and he wasn't ever going to let me down. And I was like, if that's fatherly love and he's never going to let me down, then like, that's what I want. So I remember they were giving, like, an invitation of, like, who wanted to raise their hand and accept Jesus into their lives. And I was like, well, I don't really need to do that because I'm already a Christian. And he's like, if anyone, like, feels that way today, can you raise your hand? And randomly, like, my hand just went up, and I was like, whoa, like, stay down. I'm already a Christian. Like, what's happening? And then they were like, oh, can you guys look up and everything if you decided that, like, you want to give Jesus into, like, bring Jesus into your life kind of thing. And I was like, oh, like, I looked up, and I remember seeing, I think it was Mikey who was talking that night. And I remember, like, looking into his eyes and being like, okay, I understand. Like, this is like a serious decision. And I remember feeling like this overflowing joy, and I was like, okay, like maybe I wasn't a Christian before. Like, this is the greatest decision that I've made. And we like kept going with camp, and it was like one of the best memories that I have still to this day. I've been to a lot of camps, but that camp was one of my favorites because it was like the one where I realized that I wasn't just going because my family was going, but now I was going because I wanted to go. And a few weeks later, I got baptized, and then a couple weeks later, couple weeks later, we started to, I don't know, I think it was Dan, well, a couple years later, Dan, when he first started, Dan, when he first started showing up for, like, to be in charge of the music ministry, he kind of invited me to sing, and I'm not very outgoing. In fact, I would consider myself quite the opposite. I don't like talking, so I'm, like, kind of hyperventilating right now. But, what's it called? He kind of invited me to sing, and I was like, oh, I don't know, that's not for me, being in front of a crowd, like, I can't do it, I don't even think I have the voice for it, and it's been a long process, but I know that God's working, and he still continues to work even when I can't see it and I don't realize it, and just like God put me in a situation where I didn't have the best family and I was in a broken family, I've found a sense of family, and I know what that's like now because God took me here. So
Can we give all of them a round of applause? Guys, I want to say something. I think that it's important to know that everyone has a story. A couple weeks ago, we finished this whole series called Blockbuster, and we were talking about how every person has their individual story and how it really fits into with God's story. And it's important to realize that, like, I think I was in high school when I had like this pivotal moment in my life where I was sitting and I was people watching. Hopefully that doesn't label me a creep, but I was looking at people and I was like, man, that's crazy. It's crazy because that person has a set of problems all on their own. Problems I will never know about, but they're probably going through something devastating, or maybe they're going through something wonderful. And for every person that passed me by, and I remember this like nothing, I was at Dauphin Mall on that little bridge over here, looking at people just walking through, and I was like, man, it's crazy because that person's going through something rough, or that person's going through something amazing. And here I am, too worried about my own life. Here I am, too worried about what I'm going through. If you don't know me, I've had a pretty rough life, not because my mom wasn't there, or not because I didn't have people that didn't love me. It's mostly, honestly, if we're gonna be real, it's because I kept making stupid decisions. Like realistically, I made a lot of dumb decisions. And I repeated them over and over and over and over again. And here's the sad part, is that when I was 16 years old, I came to know the Lord. I knew that God was my God. In fact, even better yet, when I was 16, 17 years old, I even remember saying, I want to be a pastor. Like, that is my calling. It's not even that I wanted to do it. I just know that that is what I will do. And it took me years to even be on platform. In fact, I would argue that I just started coming on platform like 2 years ago, and I'm almost 30. It's 15 years. Why? Because I kept going about it in the most selfish ways possible. I kept thinking about myself and only myself. And it was this repeating situation over and over and over again. I wanted money, I'd go out and do something illegal. I wanted women, I'd speak to 2 or 3 women at the same time. And I was constantly doing this, and in my heart, I knew what I was really doing was I was betraying God. The core value that I believed, I would look at it, and I would sit there and say, well, I don't care, God, I want to do this. I'm going to go a complete opposite way. It doesn't matter. Cursing, drugs, doing illegal things. I'm not going to go that route. But I was constantly pushing the envelope. In fact, I was like that little kid that like the mom's like, hey, don't touch the stove. It's really hot. And I'm like, I don't care. And I was constantly doing that. And I remember coming back one day, and I was in here, and the senior pastor, Pastor Rob, was speaking, and he was giving an analogy. I don't know if you guys have ever heard it. It's called grab the bull by the horns, right? Have you guys, yeah, it's a pretty common analogy. Don't make me feel old. Okay. And he was giving a story. He was saying, hey, in all honesty, here's a real truth. If you've come to know the Lord before, either you come to God humbly or he humbles you. It's almost as if you were the man trying to grab a wild bull and try to tame it, but you can't tame God. He will humble you if you don't obey. What's crazy is that when I heard that, I just realized, like, man, at that moment, I was humbled. To put it into perspective, I will tell you how I was humbled. At 26 years old, I was engaged, I had my own house, I had cars, I had my own job. I was making a lot more money than I am making currently. And in less than a year, I lost my ex-fiance, I lost my house, I lost my car, I lost everything. And I kept wondering, why would this happen? I am a believer. Like, do I go to church? No. But I know God's real. I heard John 3:16. I know it by heart. I was sitting there, oh, dude, I got all those Bible verses by memory. And the truth was that I was living outside of God's love, out of God's blessing, out of God's will for me. And I needed to be humbled. I need to be reminded of what John 3 says. If you guys have never heard of what John 3 is, John 3, Jesus Christ, he's talking to a Pharisee. Pharisee's name is Nicodemus, right? Jesus is talking about a new life. He's talking about how every person needs a new life. They need to be born again. And Nicodemus, being as smart as he probably was, question I probably would ask myself too, he's like, Jesus, what do you mean being born again? I cannot go back into my mom's womb and then pop out again. It just doesn't work that way. And Jesus was like, bro, that's not even what I'm talking about. Like, at all. You have to be born again spiritually. And then he proceeds to say John 3:16, which is the most famous verse in the world. If you guys are Christians, you probably have heard it. It says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son that he might die for you. And then John 17, he did not die to judge you or condemn you, but to bring you life. And I remember reading that again and realizing that I needed that new life. That I could sit here every single day, come to church, be a good person, and yet never really truly know what it is to be a Christian. I brought them up today because I want to illustrate that everybody has a story. Everybody's going through some sort of hurt or pain. Whether it's George going through a new season in his life and trying to figure out what's next and realizing that he's not relying on God too much. Whether it's Liz with her family and people diagnosed with cancer and having to go through that difficult season of just saying, man, I don't know how to deal with this. Or whether it's Kat, who didn't have a father growing up and realizing that like she needs an actual father figure in her life, a spiritual father figure. That being said, I literally can relate to all three of your stories. And the truth is that just because you become a Christian doesn't make it easy. It's not that you're going to stop sinning. It's not that your family's miraculously going to not get cancer or they're going to get healed. It doesn't even mean that in the season of transition when you go to college, you're going to know or have everything planned out. Unless you're Kat, because she literally has everything planned out. Like, it doesn't mean those things. What it does mean, though, is that you have a father who loves you, a father of joy, who ultimately, no matter what you're going through, you can rest assured that he sent his son to die on the cross because he loves you. He sent his son to die on the cross because he loves you, and despite you sinning against him day after day after day, just like me, just like everybody else in the world, he forgives you, and he has grace. And that is probably one of the most beautiful things I've ever read. That somebody would actually die for me without me ever even knowing them. As the band comes up, I made a joke once in one of my sermons. I was joking about how, as the band comes up, no? Cool. The drummer, and yeah, nice job. I made a joke once that my fiance, for those of you guys who don't know, I am now engaged again to a beautiful woman who's cooking all your food. She's cooking all of your food, which is crazy because like she can't cook, but don't tell her that. That being said, I was joking around with her once, and I was joking on stage, but it was based on a true story. I was in the car with her once. And I looked at her and I was like, hey, babe, out of curiosity, would you ever take a bullet for me? And she just looks at me and she's like, what? No, why? And I'm like, dang. And I'm like, babe, I'd take a bullet for you. And then she looks at me and she was like, yeah, but like you're supposed to die for me. Like you're the man. And I was like, wrecked. Wrecked. And I remember joking about it on stage. And the joke was, my own fiance who's about to marry me won't die for me. But a God that I once never knew already did. a God who knows you by name. The scripture talks about how he knows every single hair, the hair count on your head. He knows you better than anybody else will. Probably knows you better than yourself. And yet oftentimes we forget about him. We ignore him. We lose faith in him. It doesn't matter to us sometimes that he sent his son to die on the cross for us. It just doesn't. And that's the truth. But today, I want to give you the opportunity. I want to give you the opportunity for two things. One, to just remember what he's done. And to remember ultimately whatever we're going through, whatever testimony we have, whatever story that you might have, that God's there. He's never left you. Even if you don't know who he has never left you. And the second, let's be real. We might party, but like when this is over, we go back to our problems. When this is all over, we go straight to our house, back to our situation, and we face our own stories, whether it's good or bad. And the season you guys are in, I guarantee you, many of you guys are going back to a season after this where it's going to hurt, where you're going to be scared, where you're just not going to know what to do. So I want to invite you guys to let that peace go. That instead of going home to these empty promises, to these chaotic lives, that we can give our lives to God and let him carry all of that. To allow him to carry our burdens. That being said, I want to go ahead and just pray. And I'm going to pray two things. Really quick, I'm going to pray for the congregation, everybody. If you guys can all bow your heads and close your eyes real quick, I just want to pray over you guys. Lord, I just thank you so much. Lord, I thank you because we all have stories, all of us very different, all of us very unique. And Lord, although sometimes we lose our train of thought, although sometimes we forget that you've died on the cross for us, Lord, you've never left us. In fact, you're always there. So Lord, I pray that everybody who's going through a tough time, who's going through any sort of season, they can look at you. They can look at you and receive your joy, Father. That you might be there for them in the darkest of times. Lord, I thank you for everything that you do. In your son's name, Jesus Christ, amen. Guys, here's the truth. I'm just going to be real with you. I ran away from my calling for a long time. And the biggest reason I ran away from my calling for the longest time was because I was afraid. I was afraid to get on the stage and talk to you. I was afraid of kids looking up to me and me making a really dumb mistake. I was afraid, truth be told, I was afraid of maybe getting too power hungry and being one of those pastors who everyone thinks is dirty or corrupt. And so for the longest time, I ran away from it. For the longest time, I hid, and I went out. I went off to college, and joined a fraternity, partied a lot. What's crazy is that Mike, the guy who was bouncing off, he would always reach out to me, and he'd be like, dude, you know what you're doing is wrong, right? I love you, care about you. God loves you. He cares about you. But you need community. You need people who will guide you and protect you. And every single time I would sit there and be like, yeah, I know. I just don't want it. I know. I just don't feel like I need it right now. And our attitudes oftentimes reflect an undesire to give it up to God. They oftentimes reflect just, honestly, I want to do me. And truth be told, when I was doing me, I was miserable. Every action I did hurt other people. Every action I cared about was ultimately selfish. And at some point, you just gotta be you have to be tired of being selfish. It isn't until you start looking at crowds and realizing that your story, you're not the center of the world. Your story, it isn't the most important story ever. Once you guys realize that, in psychology, it's called what is it? Extra, I don't even know. I'm not that smart. All I know is that when you start looking at things that way and you start changing your perspective, you start to be grateful for the little things. The question is, who are you being grateful towards? See, here's the real truth, that God, He loved you no matter what you've done, no matter how many times you've screwed up, how many times you've lied, cheated, stolen, how many times you've gotten mad at your parents. He loved you regardless. And so He sent His Son to die on the cross for you. For you. And what's crazy is that He didn't just die, but He rose back to life, defeating death, giving us the Holy Spirit after ascension, promising that if you had a relationship with Him, that you would spend an eternity in heaven. Not a one-night Friday night party with food, games, and whatever, but eternal salvation. And that is powerful, man. And all He ever asked of you was to believe. All He ever asked for you was to have a relationship with Him. That being said, with everybody's head bowed, I want to go ahead and give an invitation. Some of you guys, you actually might want to know who God is. Some of you might be like Catherine and me, who grew up without a father figure, and we don't even know what fatherhood looks like. I want to give you a chance to feel that love, to feel that joy. I'm going to say a quick prayer. Now, this prayer does not save you, but what does save you is your heart. Wanting that relationship, turning away from the sin, turning away from all the bitterness, turning away from all the lies, turning away and just giving it up to God. With that being said, if you truly mean this, today you will be saved. Father, I am a sinner. I have fallen short. I have lied. I have stolen. I have cheated. I have gotten angry. I'm not a perfect person. But Lord, I thank you. I thank you for dying on the cross for my sins, for giving me a second chance at life, for giving me a chance to be in your presence, to know the God of all, of everything. Lord, forgive me of my sins. I want to make you the Lord of my life. Father, I submit to you and I thank you. In your Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen. Guys, if you made that decision, I want to ask you to talk to one of our leaders. You've seen a bunch of them. But I want to ask that you talk to us, not because I'm going to do something weird or cultish, but because I truly believe that if you've made that decision, we're now family. And in my experience, family sticks with each other. They do life together. They're there for their ups and their downs. They're there no matter what. So if you made that decision, I want to invite you guys to talk to one of us. So that being said, I just want to invite you guys, let's stand up for a second. Let's go ahead and worship with this one verse.